sessions today. So, good afternoon. Jutai Kripke, Regam Pai, Anuj Hajar, on behalf of Dimasa Scholars League, welcome you all to our second session of the talk series 2. So, the last talk being on 19th century Dimasa state culture. Today, we have a talk on Dimasa monuments, types and architecture of the Dimasa kingdom by Sringdao Langthasa. So menang ni talk 19th century Dimasa state culture ni pasawa kenaka. Jini Dimasa monuments are architecture ni pasawa kenama jing jini. Bukali bu first session jini talk by ni hamka bukali bah Dr. Rex Asno uni hamba mane natsma data ke share klik jinke buksa info boot stada jing buksa mitska so duha ang masi brief introduction ri adang jini grema speaker ni basawa. So Sringdao Langthasa has completed his masters in history from Cotton College in the year 2014. In the year 2018 he has been awarded MPhil entitled Monuments of Dimasa, a study from the Department of History, Assam University, Silchar. Ode buduha PhD klaiba. Ode bun topic la archaeological excavations in northeastern region from the Department of History, Assam University, Silchar. Both his MPhil and PhD has been under the supervision of Professor Alok Tripathi, and he has been awarded ICSSR doctoral fellowship in the year 2019. So his area of interest includes cultural heritage, migration, megalithic traditions, and prehistory of Northeast India, beside other interrelated fields. So the topic slated for today's lecture has been published as a book chapter with an ISBN number in the J.P. Bhattacharjee Felicitation volume Cultural Heritage of Northeast India, edited by Professor Alok Tripathi and published by Shraddha Publishing House, New Delhi. So, jini program start kla hai na? तो जिन दुहा मिस्टर स्ट्रिंगडाउ लंगथसा बुदवा जिनके बुनी जिनी ग्राउ जमा चामरांग बाके बुदवा खना रिफनांग दुहा के मिस्टर स्ट्रिंगडाउ लंगथसा you can take over now.
Okay, with pleasure. Thank you, Anuj, for introducing me to the audience, and also I would like to thank Ms. Rakhi Naiding, the president of the Dimasa Scholars League, for inviting me for this lecture. So, and besides, I would also like to thank all the audience present here today. So before I start, before I directly speak on the monuments of the Dimasa, I would like to clear that today's discussion will be totally based on the monuments which lies in the Dimasa capital, historical Dimasa capital, in the Doyang Dansari River Valley, and then in the Maibang Mahu River Valley, then in the Borak River Valley. So, monuments of the Dimasa, as we can say that there are various types of monuments. So, but the monuments which Dimasa built from in the Doyang Dansari Valley differs from the monuments that are in the Maibang, and then again it differs considerably when they shifted towards Khashpur in the Borak River Valley. So, before talking on the topic, it will be better to give an overview of the history of the Dimasa as like who are the Dimasas. So I will just give an overview of the Dimasa. So I will share my screen for this. So Dimasa, before their establishment in the Dimapur, say like in the Doyang Dansari River Valley, before establishing, we need to understand the historical background of Assam. For example, the first historical kingdom of Assam, first historical kingdom of Assam was in like Kamrupa kingdom, and it was referred in the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta, where the kingdom of Kamrupa alongside Davaka, and then Samatata and Nepal, kingdom of Nepal were mentioned as the frontier kingdom of the Gupta Empire. So from that period onwards, the history of Northeast, the history of Assam has been etched in the written piece of evidence. We find the mention of Assam. So there were three dynasties ruling in Kamrupa kingdom. The first one was Varmana dynasty of the ruling from 4th century till the 7th century. Then the Varmana dynasty was followed by the Salastamba, who established the Mlechana dynasty in the 7th century CE. Then after the Mlechana dynasty, it was taken over by the Pala dynasty of Assam, and they ruled till the middle of the 12th century CE. So following the fall of, after the fall of the Pala kingdom, there established many small chieftains and kingdoms came into prominence in the hills and in the valleys of Assam. So among them, some of the states are the kingdom of the Borahis, then the Chutias, then the Dimasas, and the Morans. So among these states, Dimasas were the most prominent. The other territory, the other kingdom cannot withstand the onslaught of the Ahums, and they slowly and they all get assimilated within the greater fold of the Ahums. But in regards to the Dimasas, they rule independently until the annexation of the capital of Kashpur in the year 1824 CE. Oh, sorry, 1854 CE. So I think my PowerPoint has encountered some problem.
Yeah, it's fine now. Shrink down.
It's fine now, no? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the in 1536, after losing the battle with the Ahom king, the Dimasas has to shift their capital towards Maibang, and again in the Maibang, again the Ahom invaded the Maibang in 1706 CE. Then the from Maibang, again the Dimasa kingdom had to shift their capital towards Barak River Valley in Kashpur. So again during that period, it came into contact with the British East India Company, and in the last lecture, Dr. Rex Hasnu has elaborately discussed on how the kingdom got annexed into the British Empire. But as you can see, the hill portion remained independent, which again was also annexed after the death of Tularam. So finally, in 1854 CE, the whole of the Dimasa state were like went into the hands of the British East India Company. So basically, I would like to make clear that CE is used instead of AD, and BCE will be used instead of like BCE. Earlier it was written BC and AD, but now it has been like standardized forms to use CE instead of AD. CE stands for Common Era. So in my work, I have written everything as CE instead of AD. So these states, when the Dimasa ruled these states, they left certain, their rule is attested by the monuments, which in Dimasa we can call it as Daugari. So first evidence of the monuments of the Dimasas come from the Dhansri River Valley, where we have like in the palatial complex, we have the monuments in the form of cylindrical monoliths. Then we have a V-shaped pillars, then the buffalo horn columns, and then the brick gateway. Again, while moving to Maibang, we have the palatial complex, brick built structures in ruins, and then the famous monolithic hut of Maibang. But when the capital shifted towards Kashpur, the architecture and plan of the Dimasa state changed considerably. In Kashpur area, what is common is the what became prominent was the temple architecture made of brick built. And in some instances or in some contexts, we can see the monuments from Kashpur having influence of the Islamic architecture, or say like a Bengal style of architecture. So these are the types of monuments. The Dimasa, the Dimasa monuments which still survive includes brick masonry, gateway, temples, and tanks, which I have just discussed. So these are the monuments and types of monuments. Overall, in my study, I have found 7 types of monuments that the Dimasa state has built. So the monoliths come from Kachamari in the district of Golaghat, and then in Dimapur in present state Nagaland. Then comes the Rajabari or Palace Fort area in the Dimapur, Maibang, Kashpur, as you can see in the table. So these are the types of monuments like monoliths, Rajabari, gateway, fortifications, rock cut temple, then we have temple and tanks. So first of all, we will discuss on the monoliths of the Dimasa. So monoliths, as I have already said, that there are 2 monoliths, a monolithic site of the Dimasa history. The first one is at Kachamari and the other one is at Dimapur. The monoliths at Kachamari are a stele type with carvings on one side. And in Dimapur, we have V-shaped pillars, Jasmine pillars, and the buffalo type column. So this is the view of the Kachamari monolithic site. As you can see, the front there is only a single type of monolith with cylindrical pillars, and the rest are all stelae which have carvings of various patterns and ornamentation. So the first one is called Jasmine Pillar, which is very much identical, or say like it's very much similar with those from Dimapur, and the other one, the one which are at the backside, are different, and it has been referred to as a stele or a stone slab. So the monoliths at Kachamari was accidentally discovered by like a forest officer, and then after the information was spread, Theodore Bloch in the year 1906-7 explored the area and documented these remains. When he visited the site, he found around 24 monoliths. In these monoliths, he found in the dilapidated condition, some were fallen and some remain scattered. So when Theodore Bloch, he visited and he documented the sites. But recent studies during my research, I found there are around 34 monoliths, including the cylindrical pillars. So this stele has been divided into, on the basis of the design, it can be divided into 3 parts horizontally: lower, middle, and upper. The common design which we can see in this stele is in the lower portion. We can see ornamentation, horizontally ornamentation design with box, and sometimes this lower portion is left blank, and in the middle sometimes animal motifs are also engraved, and in the middle portion we can see the tree-like structure which rises from the horizontal base and forms into circle, and above we can see the representation of animals, or some are mythological animals, and some have some are still in existence. So these are the common. But what we saw in the monoliths of Kachamari is that representation of various animals, and then with birds, trees, are different from each other. None of the stele look alike. Only the pattern, only the like segment which are divided into 3 parts remain like common, but the representation of various type of representation remains different. So from this we can say that the Dimasa at Kachamari started engraving on stones, on sandstones, and later on this shifted towards Dimapur. But there is a controversy, or there is a debate that whether the monoliths at Kachamari was the first monuments of the Dimasas, or the Dimapur remains were even earlier. So there is still debate and discussion, and still it's not clear which one was the earlier which one was from the earlier period. So while moving to Maibang, or while moving to Dimapur, the Dimapur monoliths, we see V-shaped pillars, and then Jasmine pillars, buffalo horn type, and among which the Jasmine pillars, which has been given the name by E.R. Grange when he explored the area. So as you can see in the slide, this screen, that this was the scenario of the monoliths when Godwin Austen explored the site, and in 1874, this was the condition of the monoliths when he first witnessed. And the one below with the lady, it was from 1920s. It was published in the work of J.H. Hutton, and the above work in the work of Godwin Austen. So Dimapur was accidentally discovered when E.R. Grange was exploring the Nambor Reserve, and in the jungle he found remains of this historical period. And when he witnessed these monoliths, he was unaware of what this might be, and he wasn't even aware that in the midst of jungle he were about to discover this kind of monuments. So he has given first description of the Dimapur ruins, and later on it has attracted many scholars and academicians or the explorers of the British period, and among which the report which was published by Godwin Austen in the year 1874 is the most prominent. He gave a detailed description of the site, the monuments in the area, and it was published in the Journal of the Asiatic Society of Bengal. So this was the picture, but and it is now into so we can see the alignment of monuments in the British period, and the other one is the modern period. So many changes can be seen. Earlier period, there were more than 40-50 monoliths in erect position, but now at the site only 16 of these monoliths exist. So like the monuments of the monolithic monuments of Kachamari, the Dimapur monoliths are also different. All the representation of various kind of animal motifs and everything are not similar. Some are simply curved, while some are ornamented with the finest design. So in this picture, we can see the both sides. The other one has a simple carving, and the other one is carved stylistically, and it has been finished very well. So like the monoliths of Kachamari, these monoliths can also be divided into 5 segments based on its representation and ornamentation. The first one is the upper, the hemispherical cap. Hemispherical cap or a hemispherical hat. It has ornamentation of various kind of garland type design. Then below which is a narrow space, and it can be referred to as neckline. On these are the segments, and this segments is the only similarity between all these type of monoliths in the Dimapur Rajabari site. So as I have said, the design and representation, ornamentation are all different. It has sometimes have like flowers, animals, and all. And then the other monuments from the site comes the V-shaped pillar. The V-shaped pillar was was addressed because of the structure. It was erected in a V shape or curve out of a single sandstone. So 3 sides of this pillar is engraved, while the other one, only the one side of this pillar is left blank. It is representation of animals, birds, flowers, and in the flowers, what we see common is the lotus flower. So what does it represent? It needs to be studied in detail still, and it is still awaiting. So these are the remains like V-shaped pillars. And when the British explorer found this site, there were many V-shaped pillars in erect position, but now in the site only one pillar is in erect position. So what does it represent is still unknown. So if we see the megalithic tradition of Northeast India, we see menhirs Menhirs means a stone erected in an upright position. So J.H. Hutton, in his study, referred to the monuments of the Doyang Dhansri Valley to as which resemble somewhat like the buffalo horn column or the V shape of the Angami Nagas, which is also a representation of buffalo head with sun, with moon. So this V-shaped pillar of the Angamis were created for sacrificing animals during feast. So J.H. Hutton has claimed that the monuments of Dimasa at Dimapur and Kachamari have somewhat similarities with those menhirs and monuments of the other existing of the other tribal or say like aboriginal groups of the region. So in the northeastern region, we see monoliths and megaliths in every indigenous in every region, in every villages of the indigenous communities. So these megaliths are erected for various purposes, say like for ceremonial purposes, then memorial. Sometimes it will be erected even as tombstone. So these are the common phenomenon in the northeastern region. So based on this, J.H. Hutton and even Godwin Austen has speculated that this might be somewhat related to the indigenous faith and culture. So what we see in the monuments from the valley is that there is no representation of any humans, except in one menhir, which you can see in the left. There is a one humanoid figure which have a horn. Except this, there is no representation of any humanoid figure in any of the carvings from Dimapur. So this is also a like topic of research why there is absence of any human figure. So if you can see, and if you see the Dimasa textiles, if Dimasa textiles and the motifs therein have some kind of similarities with those monuments from Dimapur. It may be the creators, the engraver had depicted some of the motifs from the Dimasa textiles, but still it has not been proven. So detailed study in this field is still awaiting. And the right side monument is from Wangchia. This is from Mizoram actually. And in that mine here you can see the picture of a man and beside animals and gongs. And these are like representation of the warrior among the Mizos. So they erected certain kind of monuments in the like menhirs and all, and it depicts the achievement of the particular chief. The animal represent the one which he killed in his lifetime, and the other gongs and all are all related to their traditional cultures. So based on this, we can draw some kind of similarities that it might have been the monoliths at Dimapur might have been erected representing some of the cultures and tradition of the Dimasa community. And now moving on to the next section, palatial architecture. Palatial architecture means Rajabari. We find there are like remains. Palatial architecture comes from 3 sites. So Dimasa established planned towns. With clear provision of fortified area for palace complex, which is popularly known as Rajabari, but sometimes it has been referred to as Rajbari also. Remains which is popularly known as Rajbari. So in Rajbari, we can see the remains of the fortifications, then gateway, then other associated remains. It seems that the residential buildings in the Rajabari complex were made of wooden structure and other perishable materials. So it did not last. But the monuments or any of the edifices that were made with bricks still survive at these sites. So in the Dimapur, you will see the palatial complex still visible, but in the Maibang, there is no remain in the Rajabari anymore. But in the surrounding areas, there has been report of finding artifacts belonging to the medieval period of the Dimasa state while constructing while constructing houses and while digging earth. The artifacts that are found from Maibang are now kept in district museum at Haflong. So the findings of such remain is very much common in the Maibang, in the Rajabari area of Maibang. The other is in Khashpur. The remains at Khashpur is the structural remains, the superstructure of the remains from Khashpur has now been like totally nowhere to be seen. But based on the remains, we can still see the buildings remains where it has been constructed, like the plan of the palaces or plan of the building can still be seen in the Khashpur Rajabari complex. So fortification wall. Fortification wall, we see fortification wall comes from Dimapur, Maibang, and Khashpur. However, at present, there is no such fortification wall in the Dimapur ruins, but based on the report of Godwin Austin, we can see that the plan of Dimapur. There were as per his report, the area was about 3,000 yards, that is equivalent to 2.7 kilometers. And in the gateway, in his map, he has shown the gateway. Then inside, he has shown the tanks and all. So based on his work, we can see the plan of the Dimapur city during the early medieval period. So beside, the other are no more exposed above the ground. Most probably, it has been eroded by the Dhansuri River, or might be now under the earth. Or proper study might reveal, proper excavation might reveal some kind of remains. But however, it has been now, the area has been now encroached by the locals as well as the government agency. So only based on this, we can see that there existed a well-planned city of the Dimasa at Dimapur. Then while moving to Maibang, there is no such remains of the fortification in the Maibang. But however, if we explore the area around the Maibang Rajabari area, we can still see the remains of the brick fortification in a dilapidated condition. No one takes care of it, and it's remained buried under soil, as you can see in the screen. So this is the remains of brick fortification remains from Maibang. And the next comes from Khashpur. The remains from Khashpur is still stands strong. And beside this fortification wall, there are still evidence of such remains in the Khashpur Rajabari area. And most of it might have been most of it is now been under the soil, and the evidence can still be seen on the surface level. So gateway means entrance of the capital, and gateway can be seen in Dimapur, which is an octagonal turret. The gateway of Dimapur has an octagonal turret. It was referred by different names such as Bharadwari, Big Door, Itagar, means brick fort. And in the Ahum Buranjis, it has been, or in the Kachari Buranjis of the Ahum period, it has been referred to as Singhadwar, that is Lion Gate. So, the gateway that is in Dimapur is one of the finest among the gateways of the Dimasa state. And while moving to Maibang, however, there is no remains of gateway anymore. But based on the inscription that was found in the Rajabari, it stated that Hachangcha, that Meghanarayana of the Hachangcha dynasty built a main gateway in 1498 CE, 1498 Saka, that is equivalent to 1576 CE. And the other gateway exists at Kashpur. The gateway at Kashpur is locally known as Myung Horglai, and in the literature we find it as Simha Dwar or Hathi Dwar. So this is the gateway, how it looks when Godwin Austen explored the area. This is the gateway, and the feature which it represents during the 1854, 1874 and all does not look similar, and it has been totally eroded in the and it doesn't look like similar. But based on his report, we can see the detailing through this lithograph by Godwin Austen. And the other, as I have said, that this is the Dimapur gateway in the modern times, and the other is the gateway from Kashpur, also known as Myung Horglai. This Myung Horglai is the simplest of all the monuments that are still visible in the Kashpur area. So this is the only two gateways still in existence of the Dimasa state. So while we see of temples, we can see temples in the Maibang and then in Kashpur overall. And the temple at Kashpur is the temple at Maibang is a monolithic hut. Actually, it has been curved, or it has been hewn out of a huge sandstone boulder and curved into a duchala type of a house. It has four false door. It has four door and engravings. Which state that it was erected sometimes in the 18th century CE. So the monuments lies on the bank of river Mahur in Maibang, and beside the general features of this monolithic hut, one can witness some kind of peculiar design in the monolithic house within the monolithic hut. See, as we can see in the left side of the picture, that there are some kind of stone that bulges out. The first one, we can see it in the eastern side of this hut, and inside the false window or false door, as the monolithic hut of Maibang has false door, and in the inside we can see this type of stone that bulges out. And again, there is in the side of this monolithic hut, there is a passageway. In the passageway also, one can see like a stone that has been like horizontally put in a slanting position. So these are some type of design, and what does it represent is, however, not clear. So Rana Chandi temple, this temple after completion was dedicated to Rana Chandi, and Rana Chandi goddess is the war aspect of Durga, and Dimasa worship it as a war aspect in the form of a sword, which still exists in Kachar district. So other temple which we see is in the Bharadwari. So Dimasa, after shifting from Maibang to Kashpur, the architecture totally got changed. The type of monuments in the Bharadwari, especially in the Kashpur capital complex, we see duchala type of roof, and most of the monuments there are temples. So the temples, the number one temple is dedicated to Rana Chandi, and the number two temple is dedicated to Vishnu Temple, and the other one is a Snan Mandir. So number one, the Rana Chandi, as I have said, it is a war aspect of Durga, and then and it is also the titulary deity of the Dimasas. So Dimasa worship goddess Rana Chandi in the form of a sword. And it is said that the sword that was placed in this Ranachandi temple was during the Burmese invasion relocated or shifted from this temple towards the temple there at Bijoypur in Kachar district, and that sword still exists in the temple. However, the sword is like covered by cloth, and only on certain occasion it people or outsiders can see that sword as per information. So the other one is the Vishnu Temple, and it has it is beautifully carved with pilasters and motifs of and for design false door, just like in the Maibang stone hut. It has been carved with false door for beautification or design. And we can say that the temple is dedicated to Vishnu because there are just in the front there is a small structure made of brick, which was being built to plant Tulasi plant. So based on it, based on the Tulasi plant, we can say that this temple is dedicated to Goddess Vishnu. Oh, sorry, God Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, sorry. So, and the other one is the Snan Mandir. Number 3 is the Snan Mandir. And Snan Mandir, as per information, was used to clean or to shower the deities. So, and it is the only design which is peculiar in the site. It is small in structure and it lies near the old channel of the river, River Madura. So old channel of the Madura River, it still exists, and it has four openings in the form of a door, and it's small. It is the smallest of all the monuments that exist in the Kashpur capital complex, and it is also the one of the most peculiar of all the architecture in the complex. So this is the ruins of the Shiva Temple, which lies near the pond. It is the ruin. This was supposed to be the ruins of the Shiva Temple, and in modern period, recently a new temple has been built in dedication to Lord Shiva just nearby this fallen ruins of the temple. So only this much is this remains is left of the Shiva Temple. So the another architecture of Kashpur is Bharadwari. So Bharadwari is named because it has 12 openings. It has 12 doors. And out of 12 doors, most of the doors are false. Because of this false door of overall numbering in 12 total doors, this building is known as Bharadwari. This is a two-storied building, and it is the only two-storied building of all the monuments left by the Dimasa state. So as per oral tradition, it has been stated that during the days of the kings, the king used to summon from this place. So it has been stated in that way. And just beside on the right side, we can see one small structure made of brick, and it is in ruins. The beside the monuments and all, Dimasa have tanks. Dimasa built tanks. Though the Dimasas built the capital or their township near the river valley, but Dimasas have the habit of digging or excavating tanks. These tanks provided soil to make bricks, and bricks are needed to construct a large number of monuments in the area. So for procuring raw materials, the earth was dug and the soil procured from the excavation were used for making bricks. And these tanks, after completion, serve for drinking water as well as for irrigation. So tanks we can see in Dimapur, still there are many tanks in the vicinity of Dimapur, and one we can see in the Dimapur road. And although there is, but in Maibang, although there is no more tank visible, but if we closely examine the earth surface suggests that there existed tanks. So, and while moving to Kashpur, then again, there are lots of tanks still in existence. So the right side, the left side is the tank near the Dhansri River Valley, near Dhansri, and the other one is the temple from Kashpur, and the temple at Kashpur is now is now private, and it is used for rearing fish. So apart from the monuments, the Dimasas were also interested in like inscription, sculpting and all. So from Maibang and Kashpur, we can see the sculpture of warrior or statue of animals, and from Maibang we can see decorated pillars from 17th century had been excavated, and from inscription we can see from Maibang, Chandra, beside others. So this is known as generally in books. This is known as Dwarpal, means palace guard. But if you closely observe, then we can see this is more like a warrior than a mere palace guard. So this statue or sculpture can be was found from Maibang and as well as in the Kashpur. The ornamentation remains same, but the carving differ when it was shifted to Kashpur. The right side, the left side uh, is a sculpture from Maibang, and it is now housed in the district museum, and the other one is in the dilapidated condition, and it is from Kashpur in Kashpur Rajabari. It lay near the Shiva Temple. So this is also known as Bharadwari. Oh, sorry, warrior. In my work, I have mentioned this as warrior instead of palace guard. So, and the other one is the statue of a horse, which was found from Maibang, and the carvings and all seems not so perfect. It is still in a rudimentary stage, it seems. And the other one is the statue of lion, which is in front of the Ranachandi temple in Kashpur. And this is the sculptural remains from Maibang. And it is now in the district museum. It has motifs of flowers and all, which look like creepers also. And the inscriptions at Maibang, which states the erection of the palace gateway in 1498 CE. So, thorough study of the monuments from to sum up, I will say, if you see the monuments from Dimapur, then Maibang and Kashpur, there are similarities also, as well as many changes were seen in the later period. What I have found is that thorough study of the monuments from Dimapur and Kachamari, as well as a local tradition, has to be understood in order to understand the engravings, the method of its erection, and the patterns and all, in order to have a comprehensive view of the monoliths from Dimapur and Kashpur. And also doing so will help to identify this with their local terms and not by the term given by the British colonizers like Jasmine Pillars, then what do we say, swordmen. The Kachamari ruins were being called as swordman column or dagger column by E.R. Grange, and then the monuments of Dimapur are called as Jasmine Pillars and all. So doing a proper study and understanding the local tradition will help identify this with their original terminology. So studying the monuments from three sides, we can see that during the days of Dimapur, the Dimasa state were very much in contact with the local tradition, very much contact with the local tradition. I mean to say that most of the architecture that exists in Dimapur are all influence, or say like it has been the outcome of the intermixing of various aboriginal communities. And even if we see the monuments from Maibang, when the Dimasa shifted from Dimapur to Maibang, the town planning of the Dimasa state remained unchanged, but the tradition of erecting the monuments is not seen in the Maibang area. And again, while moving to Kashpur, the same tradition is still seen. However, the changes in the Kashpur, while looking through the monuments, we can see there was much influence of the Hindu culture in the Kashpur region. And regarding the town planning of the Dimasa, we can say that Dimasa, the ruler of the Dimasa, were very much interested in building architecture and innovating new technique in building architecture. So through these monuments, we can see that the Dimasas were very much open to learning new method and adopting new techniques. So this much, thank you. And as I have said, that beside these monuments, there might be other monuments elsewhere also, but in my work, I have only focused on the monuments that are in the palatial complex of the Dimasa, excluding the one from Dimapur or from Maibang stone house, which is a very common among the monuments, among all the monuments of the Dimasas. And one thing, all the monuments of the Dimasas, including the sites, are under the protection of the Archaeological Survey of India, under the Central Act, Ancient Monuments, Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of 1958. So any of the monuments that are from either from Kachamari or say like from Dimapur, Maibang, and Kashpur are under the protection of the Central Act. And even the monolithic hut of Maibang also comes under the AMSR Act of 1958. So with this, I would like to conclude my lecture. Thank you. So.
Anuj, unmute yourself.
So, here question asaba shingma nang jaudo singla fure. Che thabo question reproduce la shingmas la unmute clap do. Singdao nini na bula jana kada na.
Amja
Okay, here boleh asaba shingma nang jaudo sekiran si singfunang asaba.
First, I will like to reply to Humithausen question. She says that any of the finding in related with the oral history. Yes, in oral history, in regard to the Dimapur ruins, it has been stated that the motifs of the Dimapur ruins was first incorporated by Dimalik Kamprai, and he was the first person to engrave some of the motifs of the Dimasa textile into the monolith. So in my work, I have mentioned, but due to the time constraint and taking, I have not spoken everything on details into this lecture. But in my work, I have already written on this. Thank you.
Duha jini participants perang question duha fiba. So ang duha kenari anang. Just hold. So first question abi Humithausen. Question haba intriguing presentation Sringdao. Did you try to connect any of your findings with related oral history?
I think I have replied to her. Yes, I have in my work. I have made some connection regarding the textile of the Dimasas with those of the engravings in the Dimapur monoliths, as well as the monuments from Kachamari in Golaghat district.
So I think Adi Humi in question clearing. I do. I think so the second question is from Dr. Monali Longmailai. So could the Jasmine pillars be replica of the slabs utilized for human sacrifice? I was wondering of the hemisphere head, which resembles the mushroom haircut that many tribes used to sport traditionally.
See, regarding this question, if you consider the indigenous tradition of the northeastern region, as I have already said, that the megalithic tradition was very much in common in the northeastern region, and it is still in existence. So if we deeply study the monuments, or if we deeply study the local tradition of the Dimasa, then I think it will be able to, without understanding the local tradition deeply, I think I will not be able to answer to this question. Sorry. But let me continue. But regarding human sacrifice, even in E.R. Grange and J.H. Hutton had also mentioned that V-shaped pillars in Dimapur were erected for human sacrifices. But in the later write-up by many of the scholars in during the independence period, like Kamaluddin Ahmed and all, they have written on they have given an overview of the monuments from Dimapur, but in their work there is no reference, or they did not give any example towards such kind of thing, like it was used for a human sacrifice. Rather, they try to connect it more to the mainstream culture as saying it to be like the replica of lingam, and it represented chess, and it was created for playing chess between Bhima and Ghatotkacha's and all. These were all fabricated in the later period. But yes, as I have told that if we study deeply the local tradition of the Dimasas, then I think it will be very much beneficial in order to understand the monuments of the Dimapur and as well as Kachamari.
So our third question nungko. Third question by Chiranjit Munisa. So question in one of the reports of archaeology survey in the colonial period reported a skull and gold plates beneath the columns in Dimapur. Do you find any connection with the megalithic traditions?
See, regarding the megalithic tradition of Northeast India, we see that skulls, reported skull, I think I didn't find any connection in regard to this. And as far as my knowledge is concerned, one single excavation was taken place in Dimapur Rajabari area during 1970s by V. Nenu of the Nagaland, from Nagaland. So during his excavation, he found some potsherds, and based on C14 of OSL dating, it has been dated to somewhere 15th century CE. But regarding the skull, I have no idea. Sorry, thank you.
So, bumungla rebare rebiat kabu era rebdu Redmi Note 7S. So, bu mane jani perspective bu mane groundslava regarding the previous question. So, bu rebdu I agree with this finding. There is a transition culture from Dimapur to Khaspur. In Dimapur, it was less influenced by Hindu than Khaspur.
Especially if we see the geographical area of Dimapur or Doyang Dhansri Valley, Kachamari is situated on the bank of on the river bank of Doyang, and then the Dimapur is in the river bank of Dhansri. And these areas are surrounded by hills, and in these hills, many of the the present indigenous communities still reside in those areas. And in those areas, the tradition were all related to their culture and tradition, which we cannot see in the later period. While moving to Kashpur, the tradition changed maybe because of its close proximity with Bengal and as well as Sylhet. So from there, maybe the influence was much more. But if we see the Dimapur, prior to the rule in the Dimapur area, we can see the archaeological remains from various areas, like Alicia Tengal and then Horupathara and all. There are very much evidence of remains of the pre-Dimapur area. And in those areas, we can see the remains from different, we can see remains from Hindu culture, say like in Diopani also there is a temple, and in the temple there are sculptures, and in the temple sculptures, there are inscription of some Raja, which has been mentioned as Jivara, and then again we can see in the same Diopani sculpture we can see the inscription of Digala Varmana. They were ruling that area around 8th-9th century CE. So influence. Basically, from there we can learn that the Dimasas were influenced, or maybe they have practiced Sanatan Dharma in the Doyang Dansri Valley, and when it moved to Dimapur because there were very much they came in close contact with the tribals, indigenous communities living in the hills, and from there the tradition might have they had adopted some of the tradition. As we can see, even at present also, Dimasas are very much adoptive. They get assimilated into other culture very easily. They're very as we can see even in present times. So maybe during the Dimapur days, they might have adopted certain features from the indigenous or aboriginal communities, and while moving to Kashpur, as it is much more far and distant, and it is far from the hills. And it becomes close with the Bengal. So influence again, there was a change in the cultural tradition, maybe. Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's a comment and also a question I wanted to clarify. And first thing is that I want to applaud you for this wonderful work, most commendable work, which is the Nido Tower. I think as in the recent work, Manjil Hazarika, in his work, The History and Archaeology in Northeast, has pointed out that in many of these theoretical discussion, Northeast is left behind, and this discussion, and we try to generalize many of these theories of migration, and then he.
Sorry, not audible.
Make us more clear. Sorry, my internet is unstable. So my thing is that my question is that do you also see along with the study of how the cultural patterns and processes are changing along among the Dimasas? For example, you talk about Dimapur ruins in the same time during 9th-10th century, where you have in the other Indian subcontinent, where the rulers or emerging new state formation taking place, and there is a Brahma ruler, alliance, and you see a temple institution becoming very important, but it's not the case of Dimasas here. You see the same thing in Maibang. And for the Maibang, when you talk about the Ranajandi temple, do you also try to connect why state has suddenly why they had built Ranajandi temple, which is a goddess of war? Many of you know about this. So is it related to the political practices of the Dimasas when there is a need looking for a different source of legitimacy and power, where the Dimasa rulers now count more in terms of adopting such kind of warrior deities like Ranajanti, which demanded lots of sacrifices and bloodshed. So this might have also resulted. Then we see this shift of capital from Maibang to Khaspur. And suddenly we know that Khaspur, there is a Dimasa state consolidation taking place, lots of peace and stability, and it could be the reason of embracing Vaishnavism. And you brought out very clarifying I didn't know about this temple where Vishnu, but I had a hunch that it was a Vishnu because Vaishnavism spread in Manipur and Kachar in Khaspur at the same time. And we see lots of marital alliances because of patronage of Vaishnavism. So this can reflect on how the cultural pattern of Dimasa changed as we see along the study of your archaeological monuments. Very interestingly, that whether do you look at this angle or not. The other thing is that you in the beginning of your lecture you talk about a very fascinating, you hinted towards that the ruins in Khaspur uh, are influenced with some influence of Islamic architecture that was prevailing in Bengal. I know that Richard Eaton has work on Bengal and does talk about from 12th, 13th century when the Afghan state was established in Bengal, and then many such incorporation of between the Hindu temple um, and Islamic architecture came about, and many influence. That's a very interesting angle that I think first time that I'm hearing, and it's very fascinating also. So I would like you to also elaborate on this, how how does this Islamic architecture influence does reflect in Khaspur ruins. And lastly, it's just a bit of information that I came across during my work in National Archive. And before J.H. Hutton or Goodwin Austin, there is John Butler. And obviously you had mentioned the fact that Kranz as the first one. Yeah, obviously he was the first one, but I think John Butler's work needed to be also consulted. And he make a very detailed study, John Butler. And he visited along with Tularam's men. And it is there located in the Survey of India office in the National Archive, the archaeological department. And I found some of the maps that he has drawn in detail and very fascinating facts that came across that I can share with you also. That he talks about, you were showing Godwin Austin's map. There is an Eastern Gate which survives even today in Dimapur. But very interestingly, John Butler says there was another gate opposite to the Eastern Gate. So this detail is this piece of information is very important to note down. And though he could not visit because of the dense jungle. So where is this Eastern Gate? I'm very fascinated with this, and I am not being in the field of archaeology, so I cannot do much about this. But this, when I came across, and there is a large drawing of Dimapur ruins in the archaeological department. And this is much earlier than Hutton or Austin. And I think this piece of information that could be helpful to you. So with this, I would like chance to reply. Thank you,
Okay. First of all, thank you for your questions itself enlightened me a lot. So it was very lengthy, and so I will try to answer. I will just try to answer it in like the point wise or paragraph wise, I think. So first of all, Islamic architecture, the influence of Islamic architecture, we can see since the Dimapur period. So the Islamic architecture is seen in the gateway with turrets and flank with turrets on both sides, and it is very much Islamic in architecture. So as per the oral tradition, or say like the history of the Dimasas, it is said that their Shongfa, the last king of Dimasa at Dimapur, he invited some of the skilled artisans and masons from Gaur or Kamarapur. And yes, we can say that Kamarapur and Gaur is very much, it shares the western boundary with the West Bengal. So maybe from there, they bought those architects for building the building the monoliths under the direction of the Dimasa Raja. The Dimasa Raja might have directed them to engrave some of the motifs and seeing the fine engraving and detailing, we can see that the works at Dimapur and from Kashpur, from Kachamari are definitely the work of the skilled artisans, because the carvings there are very much fine and with very much detailing. Or well else when we see the monuments from Kachamari or from Maibang, or from, especially from Kashpur, the statue of the warrior or the statue of lion and even the horse, it represents a very rudimentary stage. So from there we can see that during the Dimapur period, the Dimasa state, where the economic condition of the Dimasas were the sounds of for which they were able to bring architects and from skilled artisans from the neighboring states, while as during the days of Kachar, Maibang and Kashpur, economic condition might have shrink. So these are the speculation that can be drawn from the monuments. So as regarding Islamic architecture, as you have already said, that the growth of the Islamic dynasty or capital or Islamic Afghan influence in the Bengal region. Yes, exactly. During those period of the Afghan onslaught has like resulted into like it resulted into mass exodus of Brahmins from Bengal into the eastern region. So eastern region, they took refuge. Obviously, they will have to take refuge under any of the powerful monarch or dynasty or kingdom. So in that process, maybe Dimasas might have come in contact with all the Brahmins, and they might have given them shelter. And later on, in the later period, during the days of Maibang, or say like in Kashpur, especially in Maibang, they might have the Brahmins from Kashpur, the Brahmins that have came from Bengal. They got the upper hand in the functioning of the society or in the state, and because of which many of their tradition, their culture started to be linked with the mythological period, and in that case, various war aspect, the monuments and all in dedication to God and goddesses came up in Maibang and even in Kashpur. Maybe because of the influence, maybe because the Dimasa Raja, under the directive of the Dimasa Raja, they built those monuments, maybe. And regarding this Vaishnava, we can see that the Raja of Kachar, Krishna Chandra, he married to a Manipuri princess, and Manipuri are still at present they follow Vaishnava Dharma, and after marrying a Manipuri princess, the tradition her tradition was like the tradition which she followed in her kingdom. She brought with her, and the Dimasa Raja adopted the tradition and slowly adopted Brahmana or Vaishnava Dharma. So even if you see the ruins of Kashpur, even if you see the ruins of Kashpur, the monuments which are from the older periods are dedicated to Lord Shiva. So the later period remains where of the Vishnu Temple. So basically, after marrying with Manipuri princess, the Dimasas might have adopted Vaishnava Dharma. And regarding John Butler, I have come across, but not in details as you have suggested, and I'm very much thankful. So, as I will say that during my MPhil period, I concentrated only on the monuments of Dimasa, and because of which my work remained incomprehensive. But during this my PhD time, I got introduced with most of the remains of the northeastern regions. So from there, I try to connect it with Dimasa, because it is a fact that the monuments of Dimasa at Dimapur cannot be the result of overnight development. Obviously, there need to be like various stages of development to reach such kind of perfection. So basically, I mean to say that in order to understand the monuments from Dimapur, first of all, we need to understand the whole the monuments and the remains that lie scattered in the northeastern region. And once again, as suggested by you, I will try to go through the report of John Butler, and regarding the eastern and the gate on the opposite side. Maybe the gate now lies buried under the ground, as because there has not been proper excavation, archaeological excavation at the site till date, and only once trial excavation was conducted by the by an archaeologist from Nagaland, and there was also just a fragmentary finds. No detailed excavation at the site has been undertaken till date. So proper excavation at the site might help in recovering or unearthing the remains that lie buried underneath. Thank you.
So,
Anuj, I have a question. I would like to ask directly. Okay.
sure. Okay.
So following Dr. Santosh Hasnu's comments, we know that right from Dimapur to till Khaspur, we have an influence of the Bengal region. That is the arc, radiating arc, and also Dochala temple styles.
Yes,
But
exactly.
in Dimapur, we have that columns which is totally different from the Eastern style, right? So don't you
Yes.
think there were two types of artists employed in the Dimapur region? What's your comment on that?
Okay, first of all, as I have already said that while in Dimapur, the Dimasas came in contact with the Dimasa came in contact with the Aboriginal tribes communities living in the hills and plains. So seeing the megalithic tradition of the region and considering the monoliths of Dimapur, yes, it's very much true that there was two type of society that two type of tradition were being followed in Dimapur region. And artisans, yes, as per my knowledge is concerned, I think the artisans employed in creating such monuments in Dimapur are skilled artisans. They are definitely sorry. The artisans might be from within the local also, or maybe they were been both from the Bengal. But yes, as suggested, there was two tradition existed in the Dimapur is very much true, as per my knowledge is concerned. Hope I am clear.
Yes.
Okay. So it's done.
Anuj, please read out the next question from Bandana 1000.
I think he's muted. Sringdo, you can look at the comment box and
yeah.
response, I think.
Chiranjeev, can you take over? I think, Anuj is busy with, I think he has some other engagements as well. Bonnie, I think a little better if you take over as moderator from here on.
Okay. So, Dr. Vandana 1000 asks, the monuments at Khaspur were affected by the massive earthquake that changed the course of Madura River, taking it few kilometers away from the present Snan Mandir. Professor Amlendu Bhattacharya had made recounts of what damages and changes that the earthquake had caused to the monument and ritualistic tradition of the Snan Mandir. Okay, wait, I could not see, sorry. It will throw a lot of light on the monument's history. It's a comment. It's not a question, sorry.
Okay.
You can have a look. It's a long comment.
Yes, definitely. See, earthquake. The impact of earthquake has not only impacted the monuments of the Dimasas. So, Northeast is earthquake-prone zone, and since 1897 and 1950, two major earthquake has been reported, and it has damaged all the demography of even the whole of Northeast India. Even the monuments or even the carvings that lies near the river bank of Brahmaputra in Kamrupa district, there are like the monuments carved in the high relief has become upside down because of the earthquake. So it is a common phenomenon in the northeastern region. And the other thing is that the research, archaeological research in Northeast is still in infancy, and on the other hand, the landslide, then heavy rain, then earthquakes and all also change certain aspect of the remains. So it becomes very difficult to really understand in the actual context and where those monuments have existed. Thank you.
Okay, the next question, Maisongba. Jahade layering daw jigdung masih question singba. Singaba de does Dimasas have their own script?
Bukhil, I don't think so, as far my knowledge is concerned. But while in Dimapur region, say like in Doeng Gansri Valley, the inscription that were found in were the Brahmi script. And then while moving to Maibang, there is a Proto-Assamese, and again in the Bengal, again in Kashpur, there was very much influence of the Bengali culture, so Bengali script were used. So I don't think the Dimasas have their own script. They have used other script in their inscriptions and all.
Acha doa. So masih commentary by Dhrubajati Barman. So some of the community historians claim that prior to the establishment capital at Kashpur, Dimasa monarch had settled at Wabari for its short span of time. So what's your opinion about that? I would love to hear your version of opinion.
So regarding this question, I'm not so clear. Wabari and all, I have not gone through it, but yes, it might be true because from Maibang to Kashpur, one cannot simply come and establish the region. So in the midway, maybe for a short time being, they might have settled, and they might have changed that area because of certain like difficulties or ambiguities. So that's why they shift to Kashpur. And the other reason for shifting the capital to Kashpur is because like Dimasas were very much Dimasas in their daily life need bamboo and banana leaf the most. And so that's why all the capitals of the Dimasas were built near the river valley and near the hills. So bamboo and banana plant being the most means the important commodity in the life, they did not make the capital in Silchar as the East India Company had established, but they chose the region near the hilly area. So I think based on his question, I think Wabari, they might have settled there for a reason, but changes in capital can also be because of the security region. Maybe that area cannot be fully secured. Fortifications and all also cannot be properly built. So because of which, I think within a short span of time, they might have left. And even if you see that during, as per the history of the Dimasas is concerned, is that in the Kachamari area, the Dimasa stayed existed for hardly 100 or 200 years. But in the Maibang area, as per the oral tradition, and as well as the in collaboration with the other archaeological remains, it can be testified that the capital at Dimapur was for around 500 years. So why Dimapur was for 500 years, and why there was only 200 years, and again why there was only a short span of time at Bharadwari, and why at Kashpur it annexed until and it lasted until the annexation of British, is to be understood, I think, because of certain geographical features also contribute in such kind of circumstances.
So I hope Bhagavati Burman's service has been done. So questions like Gurika, I had a balaya about Shimana Zodu, chat box, various drop tape, no? Otherwise, the program in a spike. Asaba, I have a question, she must get a journey. Now, Anu tape, now or here, Shimpano, speaking directly, I have a balaya as well as Shimana Zodu. Chat box, abo questions drop tape, no? Here, any more questions, participants? Asaba, Shima, today. Chat box.
Question Girika. Questions Girika. The day I received it, why is the day while browsing, while going through the Facebook, I saw a post or comment that why there is the condition of the ruins are all in the dilapidated condition, and what can we do as a community? So based on the question, yes, I would like to say something based on my understanding is that we should not consider the monuments as only belongs to the Dimasa, or say like it belongs from the Ahom community, or it belongs to any of the so and so. We must think that these monuments are the national property. It does belong to this is the national heritage, and it belongs to all. So the responsibility comes from within. Whenever we find or whenever we see some kind of monuments, or because India is such a large country, our nation is such a large country, and even in Northeast India, in every single day we come in contact or we discover some ruins from the ancient or medieval, from any of the historical period. So first thing what we need to do is to aware the locals, aware the people that monuments need to be preserved, protect. And there are also, as per my understanding, there are also still monuments under private collection. So the private collection monuments, it's better if they hand over it to the government agency, to the district museum and all. So if they deposit all those materials, artifacts to the concerned authority, then it will be preserved. And through preserving, it will give hold to the archaeologists, or say like the scholars, for studying and to uncover more of the more of the unknown history of any particular tribe or community. So it's better to hand over all those monuments. And recently also, there was circulation in WhatsApp that there was one sword has been found from the Dijwa Hapai. So these monuments are also, because these monuments are also the artifact of the historical period. So it might also proper study of such kind of artifact may help in understanding and to uncover the unknown history of the Dimasa. The way how the Dimasa use the weapon, how they carve, how they shape weapon can also be understood. So overall, history is written based on fact, and sometimes oral tradition can also be corroborated with all those facts. So basically, whenever some kind of discoveries are made, government agencies need to be approached. And then for protecting the archaeological site, we should not always depend upon the Archaeological Survey of India. because our country is very much huge and there are more than thousands and thousands of monuments protected under their purview. And even in Assam, there are national monument of national heritage of more than 50 plus. So it is also our duty to protect it, and it's better to keep all the monuments in its natural setting without changing its national and natural course in the name of development and all. So we must preserve at its best in how it exists in natural setting, because monuments look better in its natural setting. So this is my my advice to all the antique lover or who are concerned with the monuments. Please stop considering that these monuments belong to the Dimasas and the Dimasas are the sole owner. It's not the case. This monument is a national property and it belongs to all. Then only if such kind of thinking is in the mindset of every individual, then the monuments and as well as the archaeological sites and historical sites can be preserved for the next generation. Thank you.
So, Jini speaker, tungdau angka sadua crowd sabade ham sining important jahidu. Jini historical artifacts bengke jeng hamsi semasla go nasmago hamsi teng manangdu ili maikat sela government can ko handover decline claim manangdu obase jingbo jini asaba history ka jing hamsi mani preserve claim funang you would give grounding you grow over there. So questions la girnaika. So then this is the end of our session, Jini. So I would like to thank Mr. Sringdao Langtasa.
Thank you.
Jini pai hamama grautska nangeba grautu butuprenke jinke kanarika krip rajiro mitska ibu grau angwa krip mitsebangu mitsbala tska bu session attend kaide nang jaba grau ke angbu mitska angbu mane history haning puri ba ubani angbu kisa mitsba grau ke angbu mitsla ka ubani angbu khajaladu de jini participants ro bo hama ba grau ke mitsna ka angbu ke asajaladu. So so I would like to thank the organizers, jini Dimasa Scholars League members okay crip participants ke bo jin kesra jini mane sessions attend claimani kle ongani so crip ke wani hamjoma khasamari ladu. So thank you everyone. Juthai.
Thank you.